I have no jokes.
Okay.
To open with.
Oh.
I usually have like a bit or something.
Well, I don't need to. I wasn't planning to open with this, but this movie was indeed better than the first time I had sex. I will expand further momentarily.
Hello, everybody. I am Will.
And I'm Kristin.
And this is So I'm Watching This Show, your new favorite pop culture YouTube channel where we talk about movies, TV, music, and more. And as always, this is a spoiler show, so you have been warned. On today's episode, we are going to begin our descent down the rabbit hole that is the Matrix franchise. That's what it's called. Like a trilogy is 3, but if it goes beyond that, it's just a franchise.
The Alien one was called a quadrilogy, so I don't...
Well, we're not going to get into the Animatrix and all that stuff. There's like offshoots.
We don't have that kind of time this month.
Or will.
I don't really feel like it either.
This is one of those movies where it's like, I absolutely enjoy it and I understand, above all else, I understand its place, its reverence and its place within pop culture. Having said that, it's not exactly my thing. Like, it's not completely what I would go to. And
also, this is my first time ever watching any of the Matrix movies. Because as I mentioned before, I was having sex the first time that this movie was on in my presence. It was not very good.
For the first time.
I was having sex for the first time ever.
That's worth noting.
Yes. And so I remember like the first 25 minutes of this movie and then not another second of it.
You're like, oh, okay, I'm done with this. I was do the other thing.
I was like, I had gone away with my boyfriend for the weekend with a purpose. And I was like, it's happening. And I was like, Keanu Reeves is not distracting me from this. I finally did get to watch The Matrix from start to finish. I liked it.
Did you?
I did. Again, I'm with you. It's not like 100% my bag. Like this kind of like grimy, like gritty kind of cyberpunk thing is not 100% my vibe, but I think it was pretty cool. And as we've mentioned in many previous episodes, I have just like a wicked soft spot for the Wachowskis. I love their vibe and their sensibilities. And I love that after this movie, they just keep getting money to make more bonkers shit. I'm so into it.
And it's a toss-up.
It is a toss-up. But I love that they just keep trying.
So my exact issues with this are that at the time when it came out, it was a bit much for me.
Okay.
I wasn't.
Yeah, 1999. I mean, we were 14.
I wasn't fully ready for this type of it. It's not nihilism, but it kind of is. Yeah, I wasn't emotionally prepared for that, so I didn't particularly like it then. And then my issue with going back and reviewing it is it's been a proper 21, 22 years now. And so many things, including the Wachowskis' other projects, have done this, in my opinion, better or more efficiently to my taste.
Yeah.
I would just so much rather be watching Sense8 or, Cloud Atlas or
Jupiter Ascending
and then watching The Good Place. Like it kind of does the...
Yeah, that's the thing for me is it's like having this like visiting this for the first time for me now is it feels content wise obviously very different, but for me it feels like if I were to go try to watch There's Something About Mary, which I've also never seen, I feel like I'm past this.
Like
this
that's
movie.
That's a good comparison. Pull quote. I feel about this movie the way I feel about There's Something About Mary. No, there's stuff that it's like you needed to culturally, you needed to be in that place in order to feel the full impact of it.
Because I think this movie is perfectly of its time. This is a 1999 movie. If you had to distill 1999 down into a movie, I know 1999 is like the year of movies, but this feels like one of the most 1999 movies. And in that way, I do feel like both I and we as a society have kind of moved past this specifically, but that doesn't mean I don't appreciate its place in cinema history.
Well, so much of it is very, philosophy, pseudo science, religion 101. Like it's a lot of the first topics that you would approach with these subject matters.
Yeah.
And again, the 90s of it all. Do you remember this point? Do you remember hackers?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember when the internet was like the Wild West and it was somehow like both a promise and a threat?
Okay.
It's still those things, but in a much lamer, more crippling way.
So here's the thing too, is like the internet of 1999, I could believe is like this. The internet of today, no.
So much more corporate.
Yeah.
And so much more just sort of. It's not so much that I feel like I'm being pulled down as I am being pushed.
The internet of today is like that show Upload on Amazon. This is very the internet of like, I'm surprised that there wasn't like a The Shining style montage of him going down a hallway, opening doors, and like the hamster dance is behind one of them. You know what I mean? Like, that's what this feels like. Although I guess it is meant to be taking place in the far future, like 2300 or something.
You believe it's the year 1999, when in fact it's closer to 2199.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But what does that mean?
It's like it's taking place in the future from us, so the hamster dance would not still be a thing. I was
but the Matrix exists in the year 1999, so.
Oh, the Matrix exists in the year 1999.
So that's
okay.
So that's another issue that I've had with this movie the entire 22 years it's been in my life. I do this thing, and apparently it's I don't know that it's unique to me, but it's not universal. There's a difference between knowing something and understanding something.
Sure.
And so I have a tendency to, when I'm only partially engaged in a movie, to follow point by point by point what they're saying, but never fully apply it to my experience watching the movie.
Okay.
Every time they're like outside in the world, it's the Matrix.
Yeah. Yeah.
I knew that on an intellectual level, but watching this movie, I was like, oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So that's the other thing.
So anytime that it looks like the real world, it's the Matrix.
Inside the Matrix. So that's the other thing for me is I do feel like I almost wish I could have watched this movie like 5 more times before we sat down. I do feel like I will enjoy it more on every subsequent watch, because I think I'll pick up more stuff.
We'll see. Okay.
Also, I was like exhausted when we watched this.
We were hard tapped out. I am strangely excited about watching the second and third one because I remember the hype.
Yeah.
And subsequent disillusion, like let down. People didn't love them.
Well, but isn't that where all the lore and shit is?
I'm so much more interested in seeing them now and seeing the story beats, because that's the other thing about this movie is easily half, if not more, depending on who you were, was the utter groundbreaking cinema shaking
special effects.
The event of it. Like this changed how movies looked, were made. Like there's, and that's another thing for me going back to watching it, especially without that initial real connection to it. I'm like, oh, this is really cool in that, like, here's the first, like, this is the first, but I'm like, it's also just been done so much more and better recently. And
where in that sense, it's actually very like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where it's like they did all those like amazing, like the floating on the bamboo fighting.
And these were like a 1-2 punch.
They really
came out, and action scenes have never been the same. Never.
And I love that because even something we saw this year, Shang-Chi, takes from both of these movies. And I think that that's actually, I love a movie like that has a legacy. And then I love being able to watch it and being like, wow, I get the legacy. Like, I understand why this is the legacy.
And a lot of this looks really good.
It looks pretty great.
I mean, there's the handful of stuff where, well, so most of it you can see that it's an effect at this point, especially with our 4K streaming, all that. But
we're watching this also on like a 75-inch TV. So.
But even for that, it's even for the datedness, it's well done for its date. There's a few scenes that were like, that shouldn't have been that way. In particular, I think anytime that there was like a reflection or like when that like chrome is going up and like swallowing him. I think
that looks kind of like, the T-1000 from Terminator. I think the thing that made it is that there were enough things that were practical.
Well, I was going to say all of the wire work, all of the training,
all that. Yeah. And then also, I mean, it's just the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. But when he wakes up in that amniotic pod.
So fun story. We weren't allowed to watch this for a hot minute. It was not a long stretch, but it had to do with, I don't remember the order of things, but it was like my brother was playing roller hockey. And so we were away at tournaments a lot. And this was very popular with the teenage roller hockey players.
Sure.
And so my mom had walked in on the scene of him in like the pod or whatever. And she was like, this is disgusting. Yeah. It's torture porn. You're never watching this. Well,
it's not torture porn, but it is disgusting.
Plugging people in and out of stuff to her in 1999.
Sure.
Like torture porn.
It is horrific.
It's not, but it looked that way. It was very, ugh. And so then
he is just dripping in pink goop.
They must have talked about it with one of the parents or something, because it was this like breakneck turn for my mom, because we went from being banned from it to then she was making us watch it. And I didn't want it.
I love Teresa. I love it.
Well, she someone must have talked to her about it, so she sat down and watched it and it blew the barn doors clean off the hinges. So then she made
it was a real tit flapper for Teresa.
So then she made us watch it, and I didn't want it.
Well, Andrew did. Was like 11.
Yeah, he did. He was super into it because there was a couple. It was like this, and there was, again, 1999, because there was Sixth Sense, and there was like a couple of things that he was thriving, and I was white-knuckling it. I was not emotionally, I was still in my Renaissance 10th Kingdom.
Sure.
Like,
you were like, can I just go to the Ren Fair again?
I was still trying to find ways to buy dolls, and make it feel like it was, I found a way.
You did it.
But yeah, so I was just fully not prepared, but I was also in that place where it was like I was trying to appeal to the neighborhood boys, and so it made me look or feel cool to be involved. And so I would find the one or two things that I could grab onto. Like, I did so many drawings of the woman in red.
Yeah.
And she's nothing, but she's a cool character.
She also didn't have a good run. She did this, and then she did Attack of the Clones, and she's never worked again.
Although two icons.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I don't know who she was.
When you've done the best, you don't need to do the rest.
I don't know who she was in Attack of the Clones, but she's in it.
But no, I always wanted like a figure of her, because I think that they had some really stellar McFarlane action figures around the time. Mm-hmm. Now I kind of want. It's like there's this like chic, this retro chicness to it that they were really cool, and I know that they were making a figure of her because I remember seeing like sketches of it, but it never actually got produced.
Oh, bummer.
But it also tapped into a certain type of person that I don't love. And it's sort of continued down that pathway. Like when we were watching the movie and the whole red pill, blue pill conversation came up, you had to pause the movie because you were like, this doesn't make sense. Because taking the red pill is a thing now. It's like Pepe. It's been taken from us.
It's a gross right-wing nut job thing. And so I was like, but it simply doesn't make sense because taking the red pill is finding out the truth. And all they continue to do is spout lies and rhetoric and bullshit.
But they believe that.
But it's not
true. So you assumed that within the context of the movie it was going to be bullshit?
Yeah, I thought in the movie the red pill was bad, but the red pill is the good thing. And I was like,
well, it's waking up to the reality of the world. Which on that note, just for shits, red pill or blue pill?
I think I'm going Joey Pants. I think I'm going blue pill. I think I'm eating steak.
Ignorance is bliss.
I'm sorry.
But now we've said it. I just don't have.
I don't have it in me to be. I don't have it in me to be learning kung fu with Lawrence Fishburne.
One of my mottos is why not find a way to strive for change from within the machine?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to in this machine, but no, just me personally, I mean, I would like to think that I could be like a fighter in certain circumstances, but not if I have to like wakingly choose to be miserable.
So there is mild spoilers. there is I don't remember if it's the second or third movie, but one of the upcoming movies, a gargantuan orgy in the city of Zion. Would that?
In the red pill.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
To like just absolute like this techno punk music, just like.
Is Keanu Reeves involved?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then.
Maybe red pill.
Maybe.
He looks so good in this movie. He's extremely attractive. And frankly, he's actually capable of being extremely attractive in different ways in every one of his movies.
Because sometimes he is, honest to God, a puppy dog. I think every Keanu Reeves movie we've talked about, I have mentioned a movie called Parenthood from the late 80s, early 90s. I'm going to make you watch it.
I've seen it.
It's so good, and he is in it, and he is so good in it, but it's more to like the Bill and Ted side, except he actually gets very deep at a certain point in it. And so it's like he can be like a dumb puppy dog, like in Bill and Ted and Parenthood, and then he can be very like wistful. Like he's in Much Ado About Nothing. He's in Dracula. He's in Dangerous Liaisons. You know, he's
Point
in
Break.
Well, that's not so wistful, but then he's also in My Own Private Idaho, which is a very romantic and wistful and like interior movie. And then he just like became an action star. And that's sort of bonkers when you think about how he started. And don't even get me started on A Walk in the Clouds, which is one of the most underrated rom-coms of the 90s. So I agree with you. He can be hot in so many different ways.
And there's just something about his physicality, especially with the like costuming towards the end.
Yeah.
Where, because I mean, he's just head to toe in black, but the way his stance, the like broad stance, the straps, the like duster.
This broad stance?
Well, no, I'm talking like in the end where he's like, boom, boom, like,
no, it's amazing. It's like, it's really
so
interesting.
Dynamic. It's there are so many shots in this movie that regardless of what you think about it or the plot or whatever, they're like, I literally in my head right now is Trinity putting her hand up in the phone booth. It's like, there's so many just like iconic. If the Wachowskis are good for one thing.
100%. I mean, they're good for so much,
good for
but
many things,
a fucking visual tableau is you remember, I mean, all of the scenes for all of the sex
but
scenes?
Selling it, it's like this is psychobabble. This is mumbo jumbo, and they find a way to make it actually.
I mean, as is Jupiter Ascending. But do you remember all of the sex scenes from Sense8? They look like Renaissance paintings. I like moving Renaissance paintings. It's wild.
If you didn't watch Sense8,
watch Sense8.
It was so good.
I like almost want to sit down and do that episodically again. Like
I would be willing. I would absolutely be willing. I'll put that on the list.
That show is like that I think for me is the pinnacle of their storytelling, because there's like a couple of dumb shit parts of it, but for the most part, it's I think their peak creativity. It's like I think Netflix gave them the most money and control of like any of their projects.
Well, they don't get shockingly. They don't for the most part get caught under the weight of their own,
right?
Which is what happens with Jupiter and some of the other stuff. But
which I mean, I just mostly unironically love Jupiter Ascending. I think
I remember even Will. He was like
fun.
He was prepared. He was like it was actually just mostly good. Like
Eddie Redmayne alone sells that movie for me.
It's silly. Like there's a lot going on with it, but. I was going to ask if you had anything, because this was a very broad conversation, but did you have anything specific to say about any of the actors or characters or story points?
As for story points, it's pretty a basic Messiah story, which is fine. I like that. And it's like, it's the first entry. So I'm expecting, like I said, more lore. And I mean, in that way, I think this is going, for me, I think this is going to end up mirroring John Wick, where I enjoy every subsequent movie more.
I hope that's the case. Don't put too much on them.
Okay.
Like, don't count on it. It's just a possibility.
Well, I just like, I like this movie, but the story is very basic in a way that it's like, well, I want to go to the city of Zion and I want to like.
It's just a cave.
Well, whatever. But I want to see it. It's lore within this where it's like you finally get like in the John Wick movies, you get these other players. You get deeper into the depth of this organization.
You do get that. So well, I was just telling you to temper your expectations.
Well, no, I'm not expecting to be like blown away. And I've also seen whichever one Monica Bellucci is in.
She's in both, but
of her in that latex dress. You've shown
she has
me.
The white one and the red one.
Yeah. So you've shown me scenes of that. But yeah, I mean, I'm mostly excited. I fucking love Carrie-Anne Moss. And I feel like I haven't followed her career as much as I should have.
Well, she made a comment about how apparently this that role was originally offered to Janet Jackson, and in the weirdest reality, there's a verse where that is
There
true.
is a verse where that could work.
Janet
Jackson's not a terrible actress. She's done a couple things.
She was unable to take it and bummed about that. So there's like in her Discipline album, there's like Matrix allusions. Yeah.
Justice for Janet, by the way.
Carrie-Anne Moss, she talked about how she was very skeptical about half of this stuff. She was like, well, I'm not going to need to do any of the things that this is saying.
I read that piece of trivia, and then she showed up to work, or she showed up to like a meeting with the Wachowskis, and they were like, oh, no, you're doing all of it. And she was like, oh, okay. But she said she owes everything to them. She was like, I was no one before it. But and then she got Memento right off the back of this, which is like one of her best movies.
I was going to comment when you said that it's a very standard Messiah thing. For me, the scene and the character that has always made it work the most, and this is such a me observation, so roll your eyes now.
The Oracle?
It's the Oracle. How did you? Because it's me.
Because I've known you for 23 years.
She's such a warm, enigmatic presence in this movie, to the point where when it's happening, you're sort of like, what is this? Why are we doing this?
I mean, if you're doing the Messiah thing, she's like a prophet.
It's some of the places that I think the philosophy works the best. Yeah. And it's some of the meat in those potatoes. And it's the way in which she tells him that he's not the one, because in order for him to be the one, he needs for someone to tell him that he's not.
Because he has to. It's exactly the same, because it's like stuff that happens to Harry Potter. It's stuff that happens to Luke Skywalker. You have to choose to do it anyway. You have to.
And also in that moment, he's not the one.
Well, yeah,
so she didn't lie.
He's not yet, but he could be. And that's the thing. I liked that whole vibe, because then he goes outside to Morpheus and he's about to say something, and Morpheus is like, whatever the Oracle says is between you and her. You shouldn't tell me. And then after he like wakes back up after he like dies, and he's like, well, you needed to believe that she told you what you needed to hear at the time.
It's also how I feel just in general, window into my spiritual life. It's how I feel about mysticism, about, all of this, the crystals, astrology and all that, is like, people will be like, tell me my future. Like it's the oracle or the psychic, whatever, has access to the next 10 pages of your book.
Sure.
And it's like, it doesn't quite work that way. It's like she can see like, well, this is, I was going to say she can see the coding, which that's a bad metaphor for this movie, because that means something else. But
I'll compare it to something else that's very of its time. She's like Alice Cullen. She can see all the eventualities, and it's not until you make the choice that she sees the one you're going to make.
And that's something that I think the movie does very well, and the series does very well, is some of these discussions of philosophy, because it's a big old bite. Like, that's a huge bite to bite off. And it's also a question that doesn't have an answer. And yet here the movie is promising you an answer. And so I think it does a very good job of juggling all of and a lot of these topics. But it's the sort of thing that, I, like Neo, am very passionate about the notion of free will. But also, to an extent, I do believe in fate, or, I do believe in destinies and stuff.
And I think that's one thing that's interesting about this movie, is that it does do a nice mix of both. Like, he chooses his free will when he takes the red pill, but then there is still a fate or a destiny or something, like, why did he meet Trinity? Why like this? Why and that? And it's like, he only chose to have the choice.
Well, and she even says about this, and it's my favorite, because first of all, it's great, but second of all, brilliantly parodied in Scary Movie 3. But when she says don't worry about the vase.
Yeah.
What vase?
That vase.
I'm sorry.
I said don't worry about it. I'll get one of my kids to fix it.
How did you know?
Oh. What's really going to bake your noodle later on is, would you still have broken it if I hadn't said anything?
Because that's, again, with Harry Potter, in the third one, where Professor Trelawney is like, and don't worry about the first teacup, but when you get another one, pick the blue, because I'm very partial to the pink pattern. And then Neville breaks a teacup, and then he picks a blue one later. And it's like, that kind of shit is so funny, because you're right. You're like, well, if he didn't even know about the vase, he might have just taken a step forward, and as opposed to spinning and then knocking over the vase, I love shit like that.
There's so much more to say. Like I said, that was less a review.
We didn't do the plot really.
We didn't even say Agent Smith or Hugo Weaving.
Yeah. Cypher betrays them all. And I mean, I love him though.
And again, I mean, no. I mean, if you're
Pantoliano?
Yeah, no to betraying them.
Oh, betraying them.
I draw the line at betraying people. I'm kind of more with you.
But I would if I was sitting there with Morpheus and he was like, wake up and help us fight in the resistance or keep taking this and you can have steak, I would be like, oh, that's tough. I think I'm gonna go with steak.
Fighting sounds hard. I would like to go to sleep again.
Yeah, I would like to stay sleeping.
You mean it could be 1999 forever? Yes, please.
Nah.
The time.
Nah.
That club they went to, the cyber, like the gothic. They seemed cool. The
music was
just playing Dragula all the time.
The music was great. I did enjoy the music. I was sort of unclear about the ship they were in. Was it a spaceship?
This is my ship, the Nebuchadnezzar. It's a hovercraft.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't think it goes to outer space.
Oh, okay. But it's like in the air.
The Nebuchadnezzar. Yeah.
Okay.
It's supposed to be like a perfect balance of man and machine.
Okay. All right.
Nebuchadnezzar was
from the Bible.
Yeah, Babylonian king who made people guess and then interpret his dreams.
Okay.
He was real fun at a party.
Sounds like a dick.
Depending.
I did like Lawrence Fishburne, or Mr. Gina Torres, as we like to call him.
I was like Morpheus.
Yes, no, but Lawrence Fishburne is great. Yeah, Morpheus was fun. I liked the very iconic karate scene. That was cool. Yeah, I don't know. I mostly liked it. You know what it felt very like to me, especially when they were not in the Matrix, is the first Alien movie. Because the crew felt they're slightly less fleshed out, because this is really about five characters max. So like Tank and Mouse and
there's
Switch.
a part where they're all dying and I'm like, no, not that one.
What's your name again? Yeah, so it's like I did like everybody. I guess Switch got the most out of the rest of them.
Not like this.
Yeah, like I said, it is really mostly about those 5 characters, but those characters are also so great. Like Hugo Weaving, his accent is
Mouse is cute now.
Terrifying. He is cute now.
He was also in episode 2. They must have been filming like next door to each other.
Maybe.
Attack of the Clones.
Yeah. I really liked it. I'm excited to watch the next ones. I don't know how many times I'm going to rewatch this movie, but I am super glad I've seen it now, because it always felt like a blind spot in my movie knowledge. And coming up sometime after this will be the Mummy movies, because I've never seen those either.
I remember loving the second one. I think it's not good.
Oh.
I think that
I thought the first 2 were like very good, and then the third one is bad.
I mean, yeah.
Oh.
But
okay.
Regardless.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll watch this space for Matrix Reloaded.
Yep. Coming at you all through the month of December with Matrix stuff. We've got 4 episodes of Matrix content for you guys.
I think for the podcast, we went a little long on this, but I think we might condense. There's got to be a Christmas movie or 2 somewhere in here.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Hey, follow us on Twitter at soimwatching, Instagram at soimwatching this show. We have a website, soimwatching.com, which links out to everything. You can donate money to our cause of doing this full time at any of the below things, whichever floats your boat. And then just like and subscribe. And that's it for us.
Help us get to 2,000 by the end of the year. We're not going to do it.
We can do it.
With your help.
Let's do. We want you. Bye.